Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Hoffman. I'm with Compass Natural, and welcome to the 44th episode of our podcast, Compass Natural's Coffee Talk. I'm really honored to be here with one of the original T-men, actually, even though we call this Coffee Talk, Barney Feinblum, who I met, literally it was 1989, spring of 1989, okay. I believe. You were literally with a hard hat on and a shovel in your hand breaking ground for the very new, at the time, Celestial Seasonings plant out in Gun Barrel. And I was the editor of the Natural Foods Merchandiser covering the story. And from that breaking ground, you went on to help create a buyback from craft of Celestial Seasonings through its many iterations. Celestial Seasonings really being one of the original, kind of the mother of the natural products industry, really. And then you also moved on to become CEO of Horizon Organic Dairy, really one of the first national dairy brands. But on top of that, you created, working with others in the space, really the first national organic dairy supply chain, and brand recognized throughout the country. You moved on to also work in retail with Alfalfa's Market. And then we'll talk a little bit about the legacy that you're creating with Colorado State University, which is pretty amazing. So stay tuned. That is actually breaking news here for this podcast, of which we're very proud to help share with you. And then we'll ask you, with all the entrepreneurship that you've had in this industry, a little bit what you might think for the entrepreneurs that are coming up, because I still believe there's a lot of excitement and innovation in this natural channel, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, and truly, really from the days when you helped grow this industry, we continue, I think, to be the ones generating the good news out there in our country, in our marketplace, in our communities. We're trying our best to create healthy food, healthy jobs, healthy environment, healthy people. I know you're also really big on education, so I want to talk about that. So there's a little bit of our agenda, so to speak, for our conversation. But like me, you came from the tri-state area. I'm a Jersey boy originally, found my way to Colorado with New Hope back in the late 80s. And you grew up in New York.
Yeah, no, I was born in New York City, okay, and spent all my life pretty much in New York. Went to Cornell, and then in 1972, I moved to Colorado.
What did you study at Cornell?
Engineering.
Engineering?
Yeah, I have a degree in industrial engineering. And, Cornell changed my life. Okay, it was the first time I was someplace other than the city environment. It was rural, it was in the country, it was a beautiful place, and to go to school. And, I'm still friends today with many of my fraternity brothers or people I worked with or knew in my college days.
That's funny. I was in a fraternity at Penn State as well. Far above Cayuga's waters.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's an incredible institution, and I just learned something new, that you actually studied industrial engineering, because I'm kind of thinking you're a finance guy, you're a CEO, you must have studied business.
No, and it helped me get my job at Celestial, where I spent 17 years. Okay, but I was hired as the production manager in 1976. And I think I was the first one hired who wasn't a friend or relation. They bought their first tea bagging machines and needed somebody to run the factory.
And that was from your engineering experience.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
actually did manufacturing.
But wait, before then, okay, what got you from New York to Colorado? And then I understand you worked for Samsonite when you came to Denver, right, originally?
Right. Not originally. When I first came to Colorado in 72, I had been in Battle Creek, Michigan, trying to do modular housing. Okay, and then when I first came to Colorado, I worked for two companies that failed at modular housing, and I went back to get my MBA at CU. Okay, and Jules, my wife, she moved here in '72 also, and she was the girl next door. She had the apartment right next door. And Jules drank
You mean from growing
Celestial
up
Day.
in New York?
Yeah.
So you followed her out here?
No,
a
I
bit.
didn't. I didn't follow her. She just happened to move into the apartment next door.
Oh.
Okay, and then, you know, in 1974, we got married. Okay, and so we've been married now over 50 years.
Wow.
You know, it's pretty amazing. But it was Jules who was the shopper at Alfalfa. She was the customer, and she drank the tea, and she saw the ad in the Boulder Daily Camera for the production manager at Celestial and told me to apply. And I was working at Samsonite at the time in Denver. But I decided to take the job. I was offered it at 2/3 the salary I was making at Samsonite. But I thought what Mo Siegel and John Hay had created, what a wonderful company. So that's what got me into the natural food industry was, you know, starting at Celestial in 1976 as production manager. And then I became, in 1979, their CFO. And in 1984, I became the president.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite a career right inside that company.
Yes. And Celestial was a wonderful company. You know, the values of the company, I mean, a little company on a few simple herbs, I think changed the world. You know, it changed the way Americans eat, and because of a bike race called the Red Zinger Bicycle Classic, it changed the way Americans keep fit. So
Yeah,
really
it
did
also
some
created
amazing things.
an amazing legacy event for Colorado. You know, just that whole Colorado association, a bit of the brand of the outdoors and natural lifestyle. No, and I remember, again, I shared the story with you earlier. Here I am in high school, Parsippany High School in New Jersey, and, you know, a girl I was madly, you know, smitten with, she introduced me to the Red Zinger tea. This was like maybe 1973.
Right.
Right, it was still
Right, it
in
was
bulk,
still in
I
bulk,
think.
right,
Yeah,
the bulk baggers.
She was so hip and cool, you know. So
Right, but
it's like
that's what
Red
they named-
Zinger, man.
Right, so they named a bike race the Red Zinger Bicycle Classic in 1975. And it ran for 10 years. It eventually became the Coors Classic.
Right.
And, you know, being a New Yorker, my dad was a salesman. And he took me to all kinds of sporting events. You know, so I was into sports. But my most dramatic sports move was I got to have dinner in 1984 with Bernard Hinault and his wife Martine. Jules and I had dinner with him in Boulder, and this guy won the Tour de France 5 times.
Wow.
Okay, and he's the last Frenchman to win the Tour, and we're having dinner in Boulder, Colorado because of this bike race.
So you can be a CEO and still be a fanboy, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's really, and I think you're absolutely right about the impact that Celestial Seasonings had on natural foods, on the kind of the very first awareness of, you know, alternative herbal teas, which led people, I mean, this was in the days of the co-ops still, but started bringing a level of professionalism,
Right.
I think, to the industry, so much so that you attracted the attention of craft foods. Talk
Right.
a little bit about that chapter of Celestial and how you bought it back.
Well, in 1984, we decided to go public, and I consider one of the biggest mistakes of my career was hiring Goldman Sachs to do the IPO. Okay, and we actually traded for a week, but we had a problem with one of our herb teas was adulterated with belladonna, and Goldman Sachs, you know, even though we traded for a week, decided they were liable, and they decided to give the money back. So as a result, Mo Siegel, I think, you know, decided I better sell the company. And he sold it to Kraft. And surprisingly, Kraft made me president. And, you know, I was, you know, the person who had all the local support, but none at headquarters. And they also bought a company called Lender's Bagels in Connecticut, and they put a craft person in charge of that.
Brand. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he had all his support at headquarters and none locally. And we talked all the time about, how to run the businesses. But, Kraft, we did a good job. I think one of the key things was advertising. Okay, and we had an advertisement, real people doing a TV commercial, and it helped quite a bit. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people in the industry don't appreciate how much advertising can help their businesses. But we had Marriott Hartley, who did commercials, or did Polaroid commercials. Polaroid doesn't exist anymore. But she did a great Sleepy Time commercial, and it helped our business quite a bit.
Well, again, I think all part of really bringing our whole industry up more professionally.
Yeah.
Right there, professionally produced commercials advertising a national brand.
Right.
Also what you've done, what Celestial Seasonings has just done for Boulder itself, I think is really pretty interesting. Now, but let's get what prompted the buyback.
Well, deals were happening, leverage buyouts at that time, and Karen Ellison, who I had made my CFO, told me about these investors in Denver, Vestar Capital Partners, and they said we could buy the company back. So we did. We made them an offer, Kraft, an offer to buy the company back for $55 million, and borrowed $56 million to do it. That's crazy. In today's times, you couldn't do.
You did it on OPM,
right? Other people's money.
But so, what was your assessment? Was that a good move?
It was a great move. That's how.
And you led that. You were president.
I was president at the time. I led the leverage buyout. Karen was my financial officer, and Vestar did a great job. They arranged the finances, but now we were dealing with Wall Street money and Wall Street tycoons, and that impact on values. It has its impact because they're profit driven, and I was reading John Mackey's whole story. And right before he sold to Amazon, they made him fire 3 people from his board: Mo Siegel, John Elstrott, and Bud Sorensen. Bud was probably the dean of CU's business school when I got my MBA. John Elstrott,
dean of Tulane Business School.
Right, and he was getting his PhD at CU at the time. We called him Dr. Rocket. And, and Mo Siegel, who, founded Celestial Seasonings with John Hay. Those were his values, okay? And John Mackey had to basically give up his values that built the company because of the Wall Street tycoons who were going to make him sell the company to Amazon. And
well, they were going to make him sell the company somehow.
Right.
He made proactive moves, from what I understand from there.
Right, and I think his decision to sell to Amazon was a good decision because it was the only way to keep Whole Foods as a complete entity on its own.
Or a wholly owned subsidiary of Albertsons or something like that.
Right,
no offense to Albertsons.
Right. So, so the Celestial Seasonings values, I think, transferred to, as you talked about the industry growing, nobody does this by himself. It requires hundreds, and we had thousands of people who were coming of age and appreciating all natural. It was Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, that got these companies started. I mean, Celestial wasn't the only one. Many of the companies Hain bought were also around at the time, but they haven't lasted. I'm disappointed with what's become of Celestial since they merged with Hain. But,
But you moved on long before that.
Yeah,
And I know it's gone through other iterations, and Mo Siegel came back, but this is your story here that we want to focus on. So,
yeah, so I left Celestial in 1993 after 17 years to join Mark Retzloff and Paul Repetto in Horizon Organic Dairy. And the point was, in 1990, we got the Organic Food Production Act approved. Okay, and that was a brilliant move for the industry. I mean, you see now organic everywhere, but it's that marketing of organic and the Organic Food Production Act that
created the seal.
That created that, and it was brilliant marketing. And so Horizon, started with Retzloff and Repetto doing non-fat yogurt. Okay, and now that the Organic Food Production Act had passed, they wanted to do organic milk. Brilliant idea. Okay, and I came on as the CEO, and we had to convince a conventional dairy farmer, Mark Pepperzak, who owned Aurora Organic Dairy, to convert one of his dairies in Idaho to put a fence down the middle and on one half raise 1,000 organic cows. And,
but he had operated conventionally, traditionally before then.
Right.
But he was willing and open to create an organic herd.
And with 1,000 cows, we launched Horizon Organic Milk. Okay, and that was brilliant because now you're talking to mothers and children, and organic milk was a big deal. Okay, and
a gateway product for a lot of families that now want to feed their kids or something produced without synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, keep that, minimize dietary exposure to these things. And it's delicious milk, it's nutritious. I know the Organic Center came out with data showing that organic foods can be up to 25% higher in nutrient density. Cows are happier. There's a lot of reasons why organic dairy really resonated across the country with families.
It's unfortunate that it sells at twice the price, and you have to pay that, but the benefits that you described...
Well, it's unfortunate that it's not subsidized, and yet conventional agriculture is subsidized, which keeps the prices down. But I'd say probably right now, as we're seeing prices rise, things are getting more on par. Would you... I mean, I do agree that organic should not be more expensive, but it takes more effort.
Well,
it's not being subsidized.
What it shows, though, is that people are not looking for the cheapest product. They will invest, they will buy what they value. And, and people do value natural and organic and clean products, and they're willing to pay a premium for that.
Right. Well, what was the quote? You think organics is expensive? Try healthcare. Or it's the organic apple a day that keeps the doctor away. I got 1 million of them.
Right. But I think that demonstrated, that people will pay a premium for the values. And cheap is not the only thing that farmers have to do. Okay, they can come up with different ideas. And when I think about, how we helped each other in the industry, I remember I was on the board of White Wave, which was Steve Demos and Silk. Okay,
who was one of our podcast guests this past summer, as well as Mo Siegel.
Great, and they deserve it because they did change the industry.
You guys all did.
Yeah. And it was a team.
Wait, what were we talking about? The Boulder Mafia? Isn't that mentioned in this book here?
Yeah.
Joe, I'm going to give a pitch for Joe Dobrow's book, Natural Profits, which tells the story of kind of the modern day evolution of the natural products industry. And there's a chapter in here you mentioned on the Boulder Mafia, of which, you were the consigliere or what?
Whatever. I mean, we helped each other. It's like when I was on, the board of Silk, when they introduced Silk, we had been doing organic milk with Robinson Dairy in Denver. So it was pretty easy to tell Steve, go to Robinson. He's used to having to clean up to run organic milk, so he'll clean up to run your silk. You know, it's not a big deal for him, you know? And everybody in the industry, I think, was helping each other. We were an industry that was changing the world.
Well, you also sparked what's going on today with Naturally Colorado, really, because that is also companies helping companies, mentors like yourself and others that are helping, again, young innovators just, you know, get some traction. So that legacy carries on, Barney.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, my decision to move to Colorado in 1972 was probably the best decision I ever made, except marrying Jules. Okay, you know, Colorado was different than New York, and I've been here over 50 years, so I'm now a Coloradan. And, you know, Jules and I wanted to give back to Colorado, and I believe in education. I got my undergraduate degree from Cornell, which was great, and I got my MBA here at CU. And, you know, when I think about how we decided to do this, last year, Jules and I gave a significant contribution to Cornell for the 50th anniversary of their herb garden. And that's this book. That's, you know, and what they...
So you dedicated an herb garden at Cornell University.
Not we dedicated it. They had, in 50 years, expanded the program, so it was just amazing what they've accomplished. Okay? And they, you know, their herb garden, they now have 17 herb gardens.
And they gave you this book in commemoration. And now this is not the only herb garden. Now the news that you want to break today is what you're doing with Colorado State University.
Right. So I went to CSU Spur, which is kind of like in Denver.
It's a brand new state-of-the-art campus in Denver for Colorado State University, which is a land-grant university, part of the land-grant university system first created by President Lincoln to promote agriculture and technology. So each state has a land-grant university. What is it in New York? I think it's Cornell.
Cornell is
it's
the
Penn
land
State.
Right.
It's Penn State, and it's Colorado State University.
Right, and so I learned when I went to CSU Spur that most of the businesses I were in were agriculture. And so I asked them, where's your herb garden? And they said, we don't have one. And I go, how can you not have one? You have a company like Celestial Seasonings. You helped create the natural products industry with Colorado companies. How can you not have an herb garden? You know, and so now they do. Jules
and it's up at the main original campus in Fort Collins.
Right. Jules and I have now gotten Colorado State University to create the Julie and Barney Feinblum Herb Garden on campus and maintain it in perpetuity.
Wow.
Okay.
And when will have they broken ground, or is it coming up this spring?
This spring, I expect them to break ground. Okay. We've met. We've looked at the site where they're going to put it. I had never been to CSU before, okay? And they've got a flower garden, okay, that everybody seems to know, and it's going to be right next to that. But when I talked to the people at Colorado State University, they immediately understood. You know, as you said, they're the land-grant college of the state of Colorado. They're the ag school. They're the vet school, okay? Of course, they should
Actually,
have
they're like
something like
world-class veterinary education and research that Colorado State University is known for.
Right, and for them not to have an herb garden, I was embarrassed for them, okay?
Well, you've made a big connection, and I think it's really important that, because even our academics, they sometimes don't know what's going on in the business market. So to make this connection of organic and natural food and agriculture and commerce happening in the state to the land-grant university, I mean, you're also creating a bridge doing that.
Right. By creating an herb garden, you know, initially there'll be 3. There'll be medicinal herbs, culinary herbs, and tea herbs. And the reason for the tea herbs is to try to make the connection to Celestial Seasonings with a few simple herbs, they managed to change the world.
Which is part of the history of Colorado,
Yeah.
as well as
And
the
these are
natural
all,
products
yeah,
industry.
and there are so many Colorado companies that help build the industry. You know, Horizon Organic is a key one. Silk is another one. New Hope Communication is another one.
Whole Foods Market, like you say, here's another book we want to pitch.
Right.
And this is The Whole Story by John Mackey. Excellent, excellent book about his
Right.
journey establishing the premier natural and organic food retail chain in the world.
And what he did was just tremendous, you know, but it was, you know, buying companies like Alfalfa's here in Colorado, Mrs. Gooch's in Los Angeles, Bread and Circus in Boston. He saw what the industry could be. And when he sold to Amazon, he had over 500 stores. And he made a tremendous difference, but they all started as little small stores and an industry that, you know, Jules and other people shopped in that created the movement, okay, that created this demand for what's going on now. And now you go into any place, Safeway, King Soopers, they all have huge organic food sections. We've won, you know?
Well, we're still a minority percentage of the overall food spend, but I think more and more people are becoming aware again of the value and of organic and the value of natural in an overall health. It's about vibrancy. It's about optimal health. It's not just about what do they call it, lifespan. It's about health span as well. So there's a lot of reasons that are continuing to drive consumers to this market. And
Right.
young consumers in particular are also now tying in, and where I think, again, our industry's bringing
Well,
in good news
and
is
we-
regenerative.
Right, and we wanted, Jules and I wanted to, we believe in education. You know, I think my degree helped me from Cornell and my master's from CU, and we wanted to give back because when you want to change the world, you have to be young, not old like we are, okay? You know, we're not
Well, I
hungry
think you're
anymore.
still helping facilitate change through education,
Yeah, I think the education...
through everything that you've invested in over time. So,
Right, and when I look at Horizon as an example, you know, we tried to get 1,000 organic cows, okay? I called Mark Pepperzak recently. He said, how many organic cows are there in the United States now? His estimate was 375,000, okay?
From 1,000.
From 1,000
All right,
when
good.
we did it in 93.
And we need more. We need
Right,
all
and
of
we're
them
growing.
organic, if you ask me.
Right, and you know, besides that, there's 3,000 producers. What are you teaching you kids at CSU? You know, if you want to make money, you can make money in organic.
Well, I think CSU is really looking at the value of regenerative, of organic in the state. And I think naturally Colorado has to play a role, and we have to play a role in engaging with CSU. I know your colleague and former partner, Mark Retzloff, and I will be meeting with the Dean of the College of Agriculture in December. So we're really excited. And you're absolutely right that, you know, our educational system needs to embrace this type of production. And I do believe as climate change impacts commodities and agriculture, that regenerative is going to continue to draw more and more attention. It certainly is in the marketplace. But I want to ask you...
Well, before you go on, you know, when we first approached CSU with this idea of an herb garden, they immediately got it. Okay, they understood that as the land-grant college, as the ag school, this is what they should be teaching kids today. Okay, and you know, while I tried to get CU to understand from a business point of view, you know, how we created a big industry here, CSU got it right away, okay?
Well, CU is going to create our business leaders. CSU is going to create our food and agriculture leaders. They both have tremendous value as well as universities all across the country. So
I
you
agree.
working with both of them is really important. I do want to ask, I think you're absolutely right that the energy of young people need to keep moving this forward.
Right.
We can serve as mentors, investors, a lot of ways, but and I'm seeing and being excited by some young innovators out there. Compass Natural's working with one on the western slope of Colorado called Roaring Fork Mill. This young man, Jacob, is bringing heritage grains back to Colorado in the Rocky Mountains, where we used to grow that 100 years ago, and we don't
Right.
anymore as more and more the grains become commodified. But we're seeing a return to heirloom, heritage, regenerative, which ties in carbon sequestration and soil. So I'm seeing some exciting things out there. Is there anything that you're seeing that excites you? And then the B side of that question is, what advice for entrepreneurs? Because boy, this is an interesting economic environment in which to be launching a brand and a business.
Well, what I'm seeing now is the next generation. Okay, we're old, but our kids are starting natural food companies. Haas is helping a company, Luke's Local in San Francisco. I think he's the son of Tom's of Maine. Okay, and you know, he understands the concept of community. Okay, that these stores have gotten so big, 50,000 square feet, you know, there's no sense of community. And yet, community and talking with people and having a place to go that you're comfortable in, I think is a great idea. So I've invested with Haas. And
So second generation leaders are emerging, sons and daughters
yes,
of founders.
people of founders, yes. I think it's happening.
I agree. I think that's a really good thing.
And you know, and what they bring with them is values. And when I think about what advice would I give young entrepreneurs today, it's you got to have values. You got to believe in something. Okay, and there's opportunities all over the place, you know, with even AI intelligence, you know, but you have to decide where you want to spend your energy, and you know, and hopefully you're picking an industry that's going to change the world for the good and have values. When I think about the mistakes that people have made, it's when they've strayed from the values that they used to build their first company. Okay, you got to believe that you can do something to make this world better, and you can, and our industry showed you can.
I think it continues to show that we can.
Right.
Barney, anything else you'd like to add? Otherwise, it's been a wonderful afternoon here with you.
Great. Well, no, I look at my career, and I've been fortunate to be in an industry that I think has made this world a better place, and I've made money in it actually. And so, Jules and I are trying to give something back to help continue the opportunities of what we're teaching kids, and hopefully it's values. And when I see the climate we're in now, more than ever, I think values are important.
Yeah, I think doing well by doing good.
Right.
And it's wonderful that you're giving back. I can't wait to see the herb garden.
Right. I hope I live to see something coming up out of the ground.
We hope you do too. It's such an honor. Again, Barney Feinblum, a true organic OG. Thank you for tuning in to Compass Naturals Coffee Talk. We'll see you next time.